Christine, how much does it hurt the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out?
It is devastating to the WNBA when Caitlin Clark is out.
Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA to be down. And this tweet from Christine Brennan really stuck out to me. She said, one player gets injured and more than half the TV audience for the entire league disappears. Has any other athlete ever had that kind of impact on a sport? Golf without Tiger definitely dropped precipitously on occasion. But
the WNBA finds itself in a devastating financial freefall.
Imagine an entire professional sports league finally soaring to unprecedented heights, only to see its viewership collapse by half the moment one player steps off the court. This isn't a hypothetical, it's the terrifying reality currently engulfing the WNBA. And the truth about why their golden goose is sidelined, causing this catastrophic implosion, reveals a league seemingly determined to sabotage its own future. Get ready to uncover the shocking decisions and baffling failures that turned a historic triumph into a devastating financial freefall.
And the truth is the truth, and the data is there. And what we saw when Caitlin was out the last time, the 5 games that she missed earlier in the season, the WNBA's viewership dropped more than 50%. Not just the Fever, but the entire league.
Just months ago, the WNBA experienced an explosion of interest, unlike anything in its history. A rookie phenomenon didn't just fill arenas, she electrified an entire league, single-handedly dragging it from the fringes of obscurity into the blinding glare of the mainstream. Her arrival signaled a new era, a financial windfall that promised unprecedented growth, a future where sellout crowds and soaring television ratings became the norm.
Quad injury jumped to her groin likely because of compensation. But the thing that you have to be careful of is if, say, you try to rush her back from this injury as well, then you're getting into this territory where a very serious injury can happen. That is what the Indiana Fever, that is what Caitlin need to avoid the best that they possibly can. So if it means that Caitlin is out for 3 weeks, if it means that she is out all the way through All-Star, then so be it.
The buzz was deafening, the excitement palpable. But then the unthinkable happened. The league's golden goose was sidelined, first with a quad strain, then, just weeks later, a groin injury. Experts warned it was likely a compensation injury, a direct result of the relentless physical toll. And almost instantly, the WNBA's vibrant new future didn't just dim, it began to vanish. The momentum, the throngs of screaming fans, the record-shattering TV numbers, they all began to evaporate, revealing a disturbing, almost unbelievable dependency on one player. This wasn't just a slight dip, it was the first jarring tremor of a catastrophic quake that would shake the very foundations of the league's precarious new empire. But that initial shock was just the beginning of a far darker, more rapid unraveling.
Clark went down. The WNBA ratings have dropped over 55%
Yikes.
across the board.
Hey, guess what, guys?
The league is Caitlin Clark.
The league is Caitlin Clark. She is the WNBA, guys.
Sidelined with a left quad strain May 24th. National TV viewership has plunged since then 55%. Before the injury, the Fever, her team, were averaging 1.81 million viewers, almost 2 million. Since her injury, fewer than 850,000.
Yeah,
The cold, hard numbers that emerged were nothing short of devastating, proving just how fragile this newfound prosperity truly was. When their new superstar first went out, the WNBA's viewership plummeted by a staggering 50%, not just for her team, the Indiana Fever, but for the entire league. Think about the implications. One player's absence, and half an entire league's audience vanishes into thin air. It's an unheard of phenomenon in professional sports.
News is alarming for the league, and it's alarming for the league because this is such a crucial year for the WNBA. At the end of this season, the WNBA will go into CBA negotiations. If negotiations go well, then every single player in the WNBA has a much better chance of making so much more in their next contract. And that's one thing when you start thinking about how many people stopped watching when Caitlin Clark got injured. A lot of people stopped watching because they are boycotting the WNBA. They don't want to give viewership to any other teams or any other players, whether they like other players on the team or not, because of how the media and the league itself has handled Caitlin Clark and how they have treated her fans.
Nationally televised WNBA games saw their viewership nosedive by a shocking 55%. The Fever's own games, which once averaged nearly 2 million viewers with their star on the court, collapsed to a mere 847,000 without her. Has any other athlete in the history of professional sports ever had this kind of singular, transformative, and then utterly devastating impact on an entire league? Golf undoubtedly dropped without Tiger Woods, but never this precipitously, never this universally. Even the NBA without Michael Jordan barely moved the needle by comparison. Her name isn't just important to the WNBA, she is, by all measurable accounts, the WNBA itself. Yet, even with these undeniable figures screaming for attention, proving an unshakable reality, the league's actions and inactions continued to defy all logic, pointing to a much deeper, more troubling issue.
What's really concerning about this is the fact that we are only a month into the regular season, and Caitlin Clark has already been out with 2 injuries. With the first one being her having to miss some time with a left quad strain. Now, of course, this is concerning because if you're already on your second injury, you don't want to be that player that is always hurt. Cough, cough, Embiid, cough, cough, Anthony Davis. So I really do hope that the Fever really sits her out right now for a while, only because you don't want her to have more long-term injuries and be more prone to.
What's truly infuriating, perhaps even outright baffling, is how this exact scenario has played out before, a disturbing echo from the past. Yet the league appears shockingly incapable of learning from its own history. This isn't the first time the WNBA has watched its ratings and revenue collapse when its biggest star was sidelined or mismanaged. It's like witnessing someone repeatedly reach for a sizzling hot stove, get severely burned, and then immediately extend their hand again, claiming utter shock and confusion at the outcome.
Man, bruh. Congratulations to the WNBA. Your ratings are going to drop by 55 to 60% once again. I believe the WNBA have successfully broken Caitlin Clark.
While their newest sensation was busy shattering records, filling every arena to capacity, and generating unprecedented economic activity, the WNBA was, by all appearances, doing precisely nothing proactive, nothing substantial to protect its most valuable asset. She is, astonishingly, single-handedly responsible for an estimated 26.5% of all WNBA economic activity, yet the league seemed perfectly content to allow opponents to relentlessly target her with impunity, then dismiss it all with condescending lectures about just competitive basketball plays. This stubborn refusal to acknowledge reality isn't just baffling, it's a form of self-sabotage. And the consequences of this neglect weren't just abstract numbers on a spreadsheet. They ripped through the very fabric of the league's precarious new prosperity, exposing a deep, festering wound.
As big a deal as Tiger was in men's golf, Keith, he did, and when he was gone, it affected the ratings, but nothing like that. And, Michael Jordan being out, maybe a 5 percentage points or something. Nothing like this. You can make a strong case, and I will make that case, and have that there is no one single athlete more important to his or her sport or tour or whatever the circuit is that they play on than Caitlin Clark is to the WNBA.
The financial devastation has been swift, brutal, and merciless, extending far beyond just television screens. The bottom fell out of ticket prices for Fever games, some dropping from an eye-watering $860 to a mere $250. The average ticket price for games she missed crashed from $137 down to just $80, representing a staggering 80% decline, a deafening testament to who truly drives interest and revenue in this league. Road games, once strategically moved to larger arenas specifically to accommodate the insatiable, unprecedented demand for her presence, are now struggling to fill venues that would have been packed to capacity just weeks prior.
I don't even know where to begin, man. I hope Caitlin Clark is okay. I want to know when this injury even happened, bro, because let's be serious here. She has the quad injury. Mind you, Caitlin Clark hadn't missed a game since she was like 19 years old, since she was like 18 in college or something. Now she has a groin injury. We've never seen Caitlin Clark play as bad as she played the last 3 games. Let's just be serious here. She's like 1 for 20-something on threes in the last 3. We've never seen her shoot the ball this way. I'll say that. Has she been hurt and playing through this?
The highly anticipated Chicago Sky vs. Fever rematch, a game that previously drew over 2.25 million viewers and became one of the most watched WNBA games in history, saw its ticket prices crash from $210 to $95 the moment their star was ruled out. Without her, it instantly reverted to just another game, forgotten by the legions of casual fans she had brought into the fold. Moreover, corporate sponsors who had poured millions into the WNBA, banking on the Clark-driven surge in growth and visibility, are now undoubtedly, and perhaps furiously, questioning the wisdom of their multi-million-dollar investments. But beyond this widespread financial bleeding, a more insidious, dangerous threat was unfolding on the court itself, raising profoundly unsettling questions no one in power dared to fully answer.
The thing I admire about Caitlin, she's a warrior. She's tough. You hear me? Bruh, you just don't see players, you don't see female basketball players like her. I'm sorry. I done seen a lot of female basketball players, like I said.
The pattern has become as predictable as it is maddening, painting a disturbing picture of aggressive play that often seem to cross the line. Their new star consistently gets fouled hard, repeatedly, by opponents who appear more interested in making a violent statement than playing legitimate basketball. Out of the league's 30 flagrant fouls handed out in 2024, a shocking 5 were committed against her, with one team, the Chicago Sky, incredibly responsible for 80% of the flagrant fouls against her. Yet, when she responds to this relentless physicality, she's inexplicably criticized for being too aggressive. When she attempts to avoid engagement, she's immediately labeled soft.
To clean up, I believe the physicality and all this hacking and fouling that goes on, she getting blindsided by Marina Mabry. I think all of this stuff is having a wear and tear and an impact. And all you guys are doing are hurting yourselves, because the numbers are going to drop and drop and drop. And trust me, when it's time for that collective bargaining agreement, they are going to point to this and say, well, how can we give you guys all this money? What happens if she gets hurt?
It's a baffling, inescapable no-win situation that the league has seemingly not only allowed to fester, but, by many accounts, helped to create through its controversial officiating. Fans have watched in disbelief as she's been blindsided by players, the cumulative wear and tear inevitably leading to the very injuries that now threaten the league's very existence. This isn't just competitive play. It's a systemic, almost strategic targeting, and the league's deafening silence, its inexplicable indifference on the issue, has created a toxic environment that threatens to undo all of her groundbreaking, revolutionary work. This dangerous pattern wasn't just affecting her health, it was eroding something far more precious, far more fundamental, the very credibility and integrity of the league.
Every day because of the way they play the game, because I love the WNBA, I love the way they play the game. But we really watch it because Caitlin Clark and everybody watching. Now listen, if I keep bumping her, knocking her down, might get her a concussion, you might hurt her for real. For 2 weeks, she was done with like a hamstring. She was down. 55% of the viewership was down. She comes back the next game, it's about 3 million viewers. Now let me tell you something. Growing up in the hood, they teach you this. Always protect the money. Y'all keep hurting her and all that. She going for a year or two. Ain't nobody gonna watch it. If nobody watches, how y'all gonna make and generate money?
The league's inexplicable failure to protect its golden goose has spiraled into a full-blown credibility crisis that threatens its long-term viability. Disgusted fans, witnessing what they perceive as biased officiating and a glaring lack of accountability for overly physical or dirty play, are now actively boycotting other WNBA games. They've lost fundamental trust in the competitive integrity of the sport. When your own fanbase openly declares they won't watch games without your biggest star because they no longer trust that the games will be fairly officiated, you have a problem far greater, far more existential than just sagging ratings.
What I saw walk into the game is what the media don't see. Thousands of kids.
Wearing what, Gil?
Kids Huh?
What were they
Caitlin
wearing?
Clark jerseys.
Were they Fever jerseys? Were they Iowa jerseys? Were they
Wherever she played. It was whatever she played.
And that's what was more impressive to me.
It did that. It wasn't just. It was Caitlin in the back.
For her style of play.
But her style of play. But it wasn't what we were. It wasn't adults. Right. It was parents bringing their kids and their friends. Them seats was kids filled.
Right.
And that's what they don't understand. They don't grasp that part of it.
This crisis couldn't have emerged at a worse, more critical juncture. At the end of this very season, the WNBA will enter crucial collective bargaining agreement negotiations. If viewership remains in this catastrophic freefall, if the league continues to hemorrhage millions, how can any player, not just the stars, argue for better salaries, more travel accommodations, or improved conditions? The injury to their marquee player, whether purely accidental or a direct consequence of relentless physicality and league indifference, presents a terrifying "what happens if she gets hurt for good?" scenario that will undoubtedly be weaponized against the players at the negotiating table. The WNBA's very future and the financial well-being of all its athletes hangs precariously in the balance. A stark reminder of what happens when a league shoots itself in the foot. The most damning, most heartbreaking aspect of this entire situation is that it was completely, tragically preventable. Their new star entered the league as a humble rookie, consistently praising her teammates and deflecting attention from herself. She handled immense pressure and often unfair criticism with remarkable grace and maturity for a 22-year-old. The WNBA had been handed an unprecedented, golden opportunity to embrace her, to protect her, and to leverage her historic popularity to elevate the entire sport to heights unimaginable just months prior. Instead, many observers argue, a combination of internal jealousy, petty politics, and a baffling refusal to acknowledge the stark realities of her unique appeal poisoned what should have been a triumphant, unifying celebration of women's basketball. The ripple effects of her injury extend far beyond the collapsing viewership and crashing ticket sales. This entire situation brutally exposes a fundamental, deeply flawed approach in how the WNBA positions itself. The league seems perpetually caught between wanting to be taken seriously as a legitimate professional basketball organization and craving every bit of manufactured drama, every social media controversy that might generate fleeting engagement. You cannot have it both ways. Professional leagues protect their stars, prioritize competitive integrity, and foster fan loyalty. High school drama clubs manufacture controversy and hope anyone pays attention. The WNBA made its choice, and the consequences are now undeniable. The ongoing, staggering collapse in viewership, attendance, and revenue without their newest sensation serves as a harsh, undeniable reminder of what the WNBA truly was before she arrived, and what it will inevitably become again if it doesn't dramatically, fundamentally change its approach. This season, without her on the court, the league averaged just 555,000 viewers, well below last year's average of 670,000. These numbers represent a chilling, stark return to the pre-Clark era of empty arenas and largely irrelevant games that nobody outside of hardcore fans bothered to watch. The solution to this crisis isn't complicated, but it requires the WNBA to make some hard, uncomfortable decisions about what kind of league it truly aspires to be. If it genuinely desires to be taken seriously as a professional sport, a legitimate, enduring entity, it must start acting like one. It needs to establish clear, consistently enforced guidelines about player protection. It needs to stop allowing manufactured controversies to overshadow the actual basketball. Most importantly, it needs to recognize that its biggest stars, especially the ones who single-handedly fill arenas, break television records, and drive unimaginable revenue, deserve protection from the kind of targeting and harassment that serves no purpose other than to generate fleeting social media noise. The question now looms large, a specter hanging over the future of the league. Will the WNBA finally learn to protect its golden goose, or will it continue this destructive, self-sabotaging pattern until the unprecedented, historic opportunity this one player brought them has been completely, irrevocably squandered, condemning them once more to obscurity? Based on everything we've witnessed, the smart money isn't on the league suddenly developing common sense.